Welcome to Dead Time with your host, Holly Faust. From our friends at Got Knockers, Strange Knocks Magazine. Strange Knocks Magazine is your ultimate companion for exploring the enigmatic corners of our world. Delve into the shadows with us as we uncover the mysteries surrounding cryptids like Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster, and examine the tantalizing possibility of extraterrestrial life visiting Earth. Our pages are filled with compelling true crime stories that defy conventional explanation, alongside mind-bending conspiracy theories that challenge the status quo. Whether you're a seasoned skeptic or a curious believer, Strange Knocks Magazine invites you to expand your horizons and entertain the unexplained. With captivating articles, expert interviews, and reader submissions, each issue promises to spark your imagination and thrill your sense of wonder. Join us in our quest to illuminate the unknown, one strange knock at a time. From our friends at Got Knockers, Strange Knocks Magazine, read the description for further information. Be a Moss Healing Collective in Milton, Pennsylvania, your one-stop shop for crystals, candles, herbs, books, divination tools, self-care, and healing. Amos offers a multitude of classes for your metaphysical and witchy needs. Check them out on Broadway Street in Milton, Pennsylvania. Amos Healing Collective. Look for more information in the description. Hey, hi guys, it's Holly here, and today I have my guest is Kristina Bloom. Kristina is a psychic, medium, and channel for the divine. For over 2 decades, she's been doing private readings and facilitating individual and gallery psychic readings across the country. Speaking in front of both small and large groups, Kristina offers a plethora of online metaphysical classes and facilitates spiritual retreats. Kristina is also a paranormal investigator and researcher currently working with the Adirondack Park Paranormal Society. She's an author and host of several podcasts and radio shows. All of her links will be found in the description. So let's welcome Kristina. Kristina, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Holly, and thank you for inviting me.
I am really excited. I do a lot of interviewing with fellow investigators, but not so much with people on the psychic side of things. You know, I'm also a psychic medium myself. It's
Mhm.
actually how I got my start in the field. And, you know, what I thought was really interesting when we spoke about doing this show is that you wanted to talk about energy protection for paranormal investigators. I honestly think that as is one of the things that is so often not spoken about. You know,
Right.
things that investigators can do to protect their energy because a lot of them don't understand. So, would you mind talking just a little bit about that and what investigators can do to protect their energy?
Absolutely. Yeah, this came up because I have been seeing so many people who work in the paranormal, whether it's on a part-time basis, whether it's, a hobby, whether they do it professionally, it doesn't seem to matter because what I've been noticing is that a lot of them are getting sick.
I can testify to that.
Me too.
Yeah, several years ago, I actually did a house cleansing,
Uh-huh.
and 2 weeks later, I had a massive heart attack.
Wow.
And yeah, so and I've had a lot of health ups and downs. So yeah, I can totally, see that aspect of, a lot of investigators are getting ill. I mean, the last week or so on my Facebook timeline alone,
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
lost so many investigators that are fairly young.
Yes, absolutely. It's a little bit unnerving because what people don't understand is that when you are making contact with those kinds of energies and you're doing it on a regular basis, you might think that you're just kind of like, okay, everybody has to stay here. I'm going home now. That they don't necessarily go along with that.
Oh, totally. Just like
You know?
I always say, they're just like obstinate children. They're going to
Oh,
do what they want to
exactly.
do, regardless of what you want them to do. So,
Exactly, exactly, and I know that, believe it or not, I have investigated at places where they actually have in the contract that you're not allowed to protect yourself.
Wow.
Um,
Now I have not
what
seen that, so thankfully I haven't seen that yet, so
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen, and how would they know if I did anyway? But, um, the thing is that just putting white light around myself, I feel like, what is a moth drawn to? Light.
exactly.
Flame. So I want to make sure that when I am protecting myself, I believe in putting the white light around myself. I think that that's a powerful thing. But then I put a reflective coating on that so that anything coming at me bounces off,
So
you
kind
know?
of like what those of us in the witchcraft community call like a mirror spell almost.
A
Like
mirror.
you're
Yeah,
mirroring things back to whatever. Because I know
right,
that something more familiar to me. Like with me, I don't really do so much the white light of protection. I always say I'm like Glinda, the good witch. I put a bubble around me. So
right, but that bubble better be reinforced. You know what I'm
exactly.
saying? Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm very much with the bubble too. I actually call it a trailer hitch. It's in my book, actually.
Oh, that's
Um,
pretty cool.
yeah, because I imagine myself inside of a ball that is reflective all the way around. And what is a ball that's reflective all the way around? A trailer hitch, right?
I didn't even think yeah, the ball on the back of it. Yeah, I never even
Yeah,
thought of it that way. And, I
yeah,
never thought like, I am heavily involved in the witchcraft community, and I never ever thought of using a mirror spell, like what we would call a mirror spell, to protect myself. So that's actually something I'm looking forward to attempting the next time I go out to
right.
investigate. Because even with the protections I know I put in place, I have still been jumped. I
Mhm.
have been knocked on my behind. I was at St. Albans Asylum in Virginia, Radford, Virginia, and I was literally knocked on my bottom. Like on
Wow.
the ground, I was done. And so I never would have thought, that extra level. I mean, I bring in being an interfaith minister, I bring in so many things from so many different faiths. I carry a Benedictine crucifix, I have mala, I have holy water, I have salted holy.
Right,
I bring in so many different things with me. And I still have had experiences where, these entities are like, "I don't care." So
right.
I'm interested in trying that mirror and seeing how it works.
Right. I got jumped. That's how I went to my guides afterwards and went, I can't be sick for 3 months after every investigation. What are we doing here?" And I have a very strong connection and relationship with my spirit guides. So I just kind of went into um a sweat lodge, basically, a
Mhm.
Native American sweat lodge, and met with my guides and said, "All right, I need better protection, or you need to stop guiding me to these things because I can't be sick all the time. That's not okay."
Yeah.
I had a kid to raise.
Yeah, I thankfully, I haven't gotten sick. Besides the heart attack, the majority of the things that have happened to me have been physical.
Right,
I've had entities speaking through me, and that was before I knew about my mediumship abilities.
right.
And so, yeah, I think it's one of the things that I discuss with a lot of investigators as a mentor, the importance of protection. And you would not believe, like, at a lot of the locations where I've done discussions on protection, people don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I
Oh, well,
know, it's
that's a bunch of
crazy, isn't
that's a
it?
bunch of caca, and I'm like, "What?"
I
No, you're not,
know.
and I mean, I actually had someone that was a good friend of mine who stopped speaking to me because
Wow.
I wanted her to learn how to protect herself because she was a skeptic,
Uh-huh.
and she decided that she didn't need to protect herself, and I'm like, "Whoa, wait a minute, no, this is not, how we
Right,
work things. You need to be protecting yourself. You don't know, and you're a skeptic. So I understand you don't believe this stuff. But at the same time, would you rather not err on the side of caution?
right. Another
And
thing that I do, no matter which team I'm working with, at the end, before we leave, I scan everybody
yes,
individually. I scan them. I make sure that they don't have attachments. I also make sure they haven't left part of themselves behind because that can happen
and
too.
that's also interesting because I
Yeah.
know I always said, scanning people is important. I do energy body
Mhm.
cleanses. I'm half Lakota, so
Mhm.
I do smudge. I
Yes,
offer
I do too.
tobacco, and I do a complete smudging ceremony with the sacred medicines, and I do an offering of tobacco to the ancestors and the spirits that are there. And I never thought of seeing if the people that I'm working with are leaving a piece of them behind.
You know how it happens most often? Curiosity.
Oh, yeah.
Part of themselves stays behind to try to figure something out that they couldn't figure out while they were there.
Yeah, I
And
can see that.
that's how we leave part of ourselves behind. I also teach psychic development. I have the whole intuitive you
Mhm.
class, and I had taken a class of about 6 people or so to a haunted location that I trust, that I vetted, that I was sure there was nothing negative there that could, if they didn't protect well enough. And of course, when I have my students, I put protection on them,
Right.
but a week later, we met for class again, and this one student was like, "I have just not been okay since we've been there. I can't concentrate. I'm frustrated all the time. I don't have energy." And I'm like, "Oh, well, let me go back and check." And in my mind, I went back, and it turns out that this lady had been a child actor. There was a stage at the location. Her
Uh,
inner child stayed behind to play on the stage
oh, wow.
and was still performing whatever it was she was performing as a child on the stage. And I was like, "Huh, well, that's not gonna work." So I got her her inner child's attention basically, and I said, "Okay, time to go home." So I took her hand and I brought her back and basically sat this spirit of an inner child on her lap, and as the child integrated into her, she's like, "Oh, thank God, I feel better now. Thank you." And it's like, we don't
Oh
think of
my
those
goodness.
things.
And now I'm sitting here thinking of all of the locations I have been at in the last 30 years and wondering,
Huh?
like, I wonder how many pieces of me are out there because there are places that I still dream about,
Mhm.
that I feel like they're calling me to come back to them. And, I'm just like, "Oh, whatever." I'm sure I'm all over the battlefield in Gettysburg.
Oh, probably, a lot of people are.
I am 100% sure because I was just there back at the end of September for WarrenCon, and, I was out on the battlefield all the whole time we were there, and I can tell you right where I'm probably sitting somewhere in Devil's Den or Little Round Top and Spangler Spring. Those are like my favorite places to be, and the peach orchard. But I don't think we went there this last time. But I definitely guarantee I'm there from times before. So now I'm going to be going around the battlefield next time I'm there, and I'm going to be searching for those little pieces of myself because I mean, I think about all the locations I've been to, not only like public locations, but private.
Mhm.
And now I'm like, oh, I wonder how many of these people have me in their house and they're like wondering what the heck that noise is going on or whatever, because I'm, intrigued by what's happening. So,
The
yeah,
thing is
that's got me something to think about.
with your skill set, you don't have to physically go back there.
Right.
You can mentally go back there and say, "Okay, come on, time to come home." And
I
what
need
you
to sit back and I need to sit and make
Yeah,
a list because we've been so many places
yeah,
and, and then I wonder like, like how much of me cuz I am inquisitive too.
mhm,
I'm that wanter and that searcher and, I want answers to things. It's why I got involved in the field.
right,
It's why I'm doing
exactly,
what I do.
mhm,
And yeah, and that's something I tend to ask everybody, like, why? What brought you into this? And I know for
right,
me, I have a personal story of a lost friend. And I tell that to my students all the time. Think about why you got involved and then make that why the reason why you want to help people so that
right,
they can have their
exactly,
whys answered.
exactly. Basically, what you're doing is your own soul retrieval. You're just going back and getting pieces of your soul.
Yeah, and see, that's something I've
Mhm,
never done. I've always
okay,
been, like, not wanting to do that soul retrieval. I don't know if it's because I want those pieces like, maybe inside I want those pieces of me out there, um, because of that inquisitive side, but at the same time, I wonder, like, my health issues,
mhm.
is that the cause for, all the pain I have from my fibromyalgia and, the bone pain I get from my psoriatic arthritis? Is it because I'm leaving myself in these places and leaving myself open to constant interaction with the entities in these locations?
That's part of it. The other part is you don't have all of your energy.
Nah, and I never even thought of it that way.
Yeah,
And, and I know, when I was going over now, this is something I wanted to ask you about because I
okay.
have no knowledge of this, but you had said, about the 3D, 5D split and ascension.
Right.
Now, that really piqued my interest. I didn't even do any research on it because I wanted to hear it for the first time when we were discussing things on here, because I had never heard of this. I heard of like 3D and 2D and stuff like that, but this 3D, 5D split, I never, I'm familiar with ascension in if it's in the terms that I'm thinking, where you're ascending up consistently in your spiritual journey. But this
Right.
3D, 5D split, I had never heard about before.
Okay. Well, the 3D is basically how we've been living, like, our
Right.
whole lives, right? So, it's about, nose to the grindstone and, kind of heavier energies, more physical energies. As we're moving into the 5D, which is a higher etheric kind of ascension, it's not that we're leaving our bodies, it's that our
Okay.
bodies are changing,
All right.
right? So,
Okay.
as our spiritual, mental, and emotional um, energies are raising, our bodies have to try to keep up, right?
Okay.
So, as our because our bodies are physical, they're more dense, the molecules are closer together. That's where we're having a lot of increase in autoimmune disorders. I'm dealing with that myself. That's why I
Yeah.
said I'll be with you when I get my face on because I
Yeah.
want to cover up that red rash from the autoimmune
Total
disorder,
totally get that,
right?
having psoriatic arthritis, and
Yeah,
I have a very close friend with Crohn's. Totally get the autoimmune thing, and I
yeah.
never, it also like what your explanation is reminding me, my Reiki master, when I was taking my Reiki courses
Mhm.
to become a master teacher, she had recommended a book called The Celestine Prophecy.
Excellent book
Yeah,
series.
and that's what
Yeah,
it reminds me kind of that,
right.
talk of ascending to that higher spiritual level. And so as you were
Mhm.
saying that, I was literally picturing that book because it's one of my favorite books.
It's one of my
And
favorites too.
yeah, and she had
Yeah,
recommended that to me, and it's gotta be 20 years ago because I started
mhm,
my Reiki journey when my son was diagnosed with autism.
okay.
And, so like that, and that's what I was picturing when you were talking, like the ascension that you see in that book.
Right, right. Where it's like, we ascend to 5D, but we still have to live in a 3D world, right? So, the thing is that that's where we're seeing a lot of, splits even in, generations, right? So, the younger generations, they already came in with a higher vibration, and
Mhm.
they're not buying into the low vibration stuff of previous generations,
Oh,
right?
I can attest to that. So
So, it's really it's not that we stop taking care of ourselves, that's not it. It's not that we stop working and, making sure that our needs are met, but there's a whole shift in consciousness between working to live and living to work. And the higher consciousness, the 5D, those who are already in or moving towards 5D in a big way, already understand that it's not living to work, it's work. It's not being stuck in the work, eat, sleep cycle. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
and that makes me understand because I have 3 Gen Z kids. My youngest of the 3, is very in tuned to that.
right,
And constantly tries to tell my husband, he owns his own business, so his cycle is work, eat, sleep, work. Sometimes he doesn't even eat or sleep. He's
right.
been working now since 10 o'clock last night, and he still isn't home. And you know she's always telling him, you gotta take time for yourself. You've gotta, recharge. You've gotta, and so I can understand that because I
Mhm.
do think the younger generation is a lot more in tune. I think
They
they're
are.
a lot more not only in tuned with that whole thing, but even in the paranormal community. I think some of the younger generation, and I'm not saying, all these people that are out on YouTube or whatnot, but the younger generation that are coming in to the field and wanting to truly investigate, they seem to be at a different level than even where I was when I
Right.
started. I started investigating at 19, and that was like back in the early 1990s. I'm giving away my age, but you know, and we didn't have like the only thing that I had as a guide back then that I can remember was the stories that I had from Ed and Lorraine Warren. That was
Okay.
it. That's all I had as a guidebook to paranormal investigating. And I see these kids today, they have so much more.
Mhm.
They are out there and they're learning and they're seeing what they like and what they don't like in the field, and they're
And
trying to
they're
make
changing it.
changes.
Yeah, they're
They
changing
really
it.
are, because
Mhm.
I came in at a time when there was so much sexism and racism and fat phobia and all these little isms that go on, and I
Mhm.
experienced it all. I've
Right.
experienced the racism, I experienced that sexism. So I don't know, is there anything like that you have as advice for younger investigators when they're coming into the field?
I think the one thing that I've seen that I would like to adjust with the younger investigators coming in is that it's not a competition.
Yeah, I agree with that
It's
totally.
not a competition because the bottom line is if you have somebody who doesn't want to understand that we are living in a multiverse, if you have somebody who doesn't want to understand that there are multiple dimensions that we're dealing with, you can't make them understand that no matter how much evidence you give them.
Right.
Because they're going to say what a lot of people have said, and that is, "Well, unless I experience it myself, I'm not going to believe it." But then some of them do experience it themselves, and then they spend an exorbitant amount of time and energy trying to convince other people who are like they were 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen that too.
You
And that
know?
is good advice. Like my youngest, my older two were into it for a little bit. And now my son's become a dad and a husband, and he just has no interest. But my youngest has really become interested. And, for me, I noticed the interest came with the advent of the YouTube ghost hunters.
Mhm.
She started following them, and I would sit there and just shake my head, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm gonna let her, and then as she started growing, she came to the realization that, like, oh, these guys aren't everything I thought they were,
Right.
and she
Right.
learned the difference between paranormal investigation and para entertainment.
Right.
And,
Right.
that's kind of been one of the reasons why I embarked on this whole journey. I left a team that I had been with that was part of para entertainment for over a decade and a half. And I felt it important to come out and really talk about the meat and bones of paranormal investigating, because people see what they see and they don't understand everything that truly goes into the investigative process. They think you just
Right.
go to a location, show up, set up a bunch of equipment, talk to nothing, or whatever is there, and then you leave. We
Right.
don't ever really, and I actually am signing up now to get a degree in counseling, because we don't talk about, like, the trauma associated
Exactly.
with paranormal investigating, and not only that, the trauma that happens to our clients, because when they're
Right.
being tormented. Are there any locations that you have gone to that really, had an impact on you as an investigator?
Yeah, my first official investigation was actually years after I was already a psychic medium. I grew up I grew up haunted, basically, let's just put it that way.
Right.
I have never lived in a place that wasn't haunted, and, I probably because I'm drawn to it, maybe I'm haunted, I don't know, maybe it's me, but, um, one of the places the first place that I actually went with a team to investigate was a place called Starvation Heights in Olalla, Washington,
Oh,
and
okay.
it was a place of a I'm gonna say mass murder, but it wasn't like what we're experiencing today as mass murders, where somebody
Mhm.
comes in with a gun and blows a bunch of people away.
Right.
That wasn't it. It was a self-proclaimed doctor who
Okay.
was selling people a fasting cure for pretty much everything, but selling it to rich people in particular, and
Mhm.
then starving them to death.
Oh, wow.
So it was, there was a lot of heaviness there. There's a whole book written about it called Starvation Heights by Greg Olson. Excellent book if you want to read up on it. That is where I was jumped. My first
Wow.
official team investigation, and it was we had set up in the basement of this house that was or had been a sanatorium. There were still cages in the basement where she locked people up.
Wow.
Yeah, it was super creepy. I mean, it's like there was like a There was a cage with an old moldy mattress in it and, like a circus poster, an old circus poster on the wall. And outside of that cage, we had set up um, a portal for people to go, right?
Mhm.
So that we could help these spirits release. Um,
Right.
the, the deal was that they were going to knock down the house, but they wanted it cleared first.
Mhm.
So we went in. There was a team of 5 psychics, and then we had like a whole bunch of tech people. And so we had set it up. We were doing a shamanic kind of thing where we were walking, we were drumming, we were singing, we were, lighting sage. We were doing all of the shamanic stuff because there was also a strong native community in that area. And so we wanted to open it up for anybody who wanted to go, whether she killed them or not.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and I
Right.
could picture that because you're talking like Washington State.
Yes.
Right, okay, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's, like like, near where the Umatilla and the Confederated Tribes of the,
Hmm.
Puyallup and all them, okay. I was
Yep.
just trying to get
Yep.
a sense because I have family. My aunt actually lives on the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla and the
Okay.
Cayuse, reservation out there, so, yeah, I'm
Right.
trying to because when you said Washington, I know for us on the East Coasters, when we say Washington, we think of
Oh,
DC.
no, it was
So
Washington State. Yeah.
yeah,
It
Washington
was
State, I have
Washington
not been
State.
out there yet. I want to. The
It,
furthest west
it's
I've been is
gorgeous.
Iowa.
Okay.
And that was a road trip to Malvern Manor. But
Okay.
yeah, and that is intriguing though. Like, I mean, I know that one team that I had worked with, yeah, oh my God, it has to be 18, 19 years ago. They had a preacher that they had worked with who did it was called a soul release prayer.
Right.
And, and a lot of locations look at you really weird when, you want, oh, well, can we do no, no. And I'm like,
Right.
but
Well, those are pay to play locations. This was
right,
when we went to serve people. The group
right.
that I was with and the group that I'm with now, which is actually in upstate New York,
Okay.
we don't do that. We do the we're here to help you.
Right.
That's we're here to serve. But finishing that story, I was walking around with a ceremonial drum
Okay.
and, playing a heartbeat and just walking through this building and saying, anybody who wants to leave, we've opened a portal. Please feel free to use the portal to escape. And the spirit of that doctor got right in my face and screamed, "Stop that infernal racket." And I could feel the spit coming off of her. It
That's
was
insane.
it was insane. I had never felt it like that before or since, by the way. That's where I learned to protect myself.
Mhm.
But I ended up with a sinus infection that actually went systemic, and, you
Wow.
know, after being told several medical people, sinus infections don't go systemic. Well, they do when you've been jumped by a negative spirit,
Mhm.
I was
And
sick
I
for
think
a few
that is
months.
important because people
Yeah,
don't understand, like, they think going out and investigating, it's, like, all fun and games, but they don't, especially for the psychics in their group. They
right.
don't understand the damage that can occur to the psychics in their group when they are doing things like antagonizing, like, trying to because
Mhm.
we were in West Virginia State Penitentiary, and we had someone within our group that was literally, like, getting mean and nasty and saying, "I'm gonna tell the warden to take away everything from you," and I literally started getting in like, falling into a panic and
Yeah,
saying, "I need to leave. I need to get out of here right
right,
now," because I could feel these, and when I would go to West Virginia, I didn't go into the cell blocks because I never saw anything that I liked when I was in the cell. I stayed
yeah,
outside of protective custody. I went out into the yard. One time I went into where general population was, and I saw people prancing in front of a window with a man's head on a stick. So after that point, I was like, "Nah, I'll just stay out here. I'm good." But, I
yeah,
will interact and I still get impressions. And
I do too.
these like and that's why I try to work even with non-psychic investigators, like to explain to them, why you shouldn't be tormenting and antagonizing and saying I'm like, if you do you want people to say mean and nasty things to you? I don't know if you've ever had that experience where you were with someone and they were being antagonistic and had an entity like come through for retribution to that person.
I have not because I have intentionally avoided that situation.
Yeah, see,
The
unfortunately,
yeah.
being involved with in the para entertainment when we would do trips,
Mhm.
we never knew who was coming.
Right.
These were paid participants that were coming for an experience. And one of the guys that was actually, part of the unit was an antagonizer. And I used to steer clear of him because he would start and I would be cursing. And, I think I have found now that I'm making my own rules and I'm not allowing myself, I have my own team. I steer clear of that too. So I can see where that makes sense. But
Yeah.
are
I
there
have
specifics that you sorry, are there specific things that you do other than, do you carry like a talisman or do you do other things to continue to hold that more protection?
not usually. I mean,
Okay.
if I do, it's because my spirit guides reminded me to.
Okay.
I assume if they don't tell me to bring something, I don't need to. I do just because I I feel like I don't know. Just ever since I got this necklace,
Okay.
it's a sea turtle. I don't you probably can't see it, but um it's an oil diffuser. So
Mhm.
I will put in like rosemary or
Okay.
sage or something like that. Sometimes frankincense. It depends on where I'm going.
Mhm.
Um, but because of the reason I have this, I feel like it's extra protection.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And so it's really I don't feel this is probably I don't know if I'm even going to explain this well, but I'm going to try.
Okay.
Again, I have a strong trusting relationship with my spirit guides. I know that they're not going to allow me to go into a situation where I'm going to get hurt because after that one situation, we sat down and we had a powwow.
Right.
Like, we talked about this, and I'm like, if you want me to do this work, I'm not putting myself through that again. The group that I was with was not antagonistic. That's one
Mhm.
of the reasons I agreed to join them because they were not antagonistic. The group that I'm with now, same thing. Antagonizing is absolutely against the rules. You do it, you're out. That simple.
I like
So,
that rule.
yeah. I have been on only a few public investigations, and it was for the few that I've been on, it was right up front. There will be no antagonizing anybody in or out of a body in this location. So, I'm very careful with who I investigate with. And I'm very careful to honor what other people believe on an investigation because I have seen where someone is praying and maybe it's a Christian prayer and somebody there doesn't believe it, so they're kind of mocking them. That's
Yes.
not allowed. That is not allowed. I don't care what religion you are or how atheistic you are. You don't mock other people's belief systems. So that's something that I'm very strong on too. I don't necessarily bring talismans, but
Okay.
again, I have my trailer hitch on.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I was wondering because I know
You
for me,
know?
like I have the attachment to a Benedictine crucifix.
Okay.
And I was raised Catholic. I'm not a practicing Catholic anymore. I'm very much interfaith, but this piece was actually touched to Padre Pio's glove.
Oh wow. Okay.
And for me, I always, and I will have it go missing. Like when we're getting ready to go on specific types of investigation, it disappears.
Okay.
And like, my friends will go to my Facebook and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, she's going away because she's looking for her crucifix and it's gone again." And I know I've noticed that happen with other investigators, specific
Mhm.
protective pieces when you're getting involved with like a pretty heavy or, you know, I don't even want to say negative because I don't always prescribe to that, but like
Right.
a heavier entity, these things just disappear, these protective
Right.
pieces. And that was another reason why I really wanted to discuss with you because I wanted ways for investigators to be able to do other forms of protection when, these devices, that they normally use disappear or get lost or
Right.
they can't find them. Because I think, like you had said, I'm all about educating in a spiritual aspect for clients. Mayan is, more focused on clients, working with clients at their level of belief.
Mhm.
And it seems like you do, something similar with investigators, working with other investigators, but at their level of belief.
And I do with clients as well.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that's important because there's so many teams out
Mhm.
there that aren't utilizing that. And,
Right.
with the one team that I'm a member of, I do all their spirituality and occult research. And I actually have a big blurb about, understanding multitudes of spiritual practices to be able to work better with clients. So,
Yeah,
I, I s-
absolutely.
and yeah, and it's good to hear someone else that's actually doing that. But I'm very intrigued. I'm gonna have to look up the information on that starvation location that you're at, because I remember hearing a story that was similar to that, but I think it had more to do with like healing springs, and it was further closer to like the central part of the country.
Okay.
That they had that, like, this doctor was claiming these springs could heal people of all these elements, and these people were
Mhm.
going there to die because they didn't have these properties. And so that, like, those types of places are intriguing.
Right.
I have an a thing with sanitariums, and not even just insane asylums themselves, but like tuberculosis and sanitariums. And Wildwood is up in
Mhm.
upstate New York, is a place that I'm
I
I'm
have
very interested in.
investigated the Trudeau Institute in upstate New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, see,
So
I am trying to work my way, like, I'm in central PA, so I'm, like, right between Philly and Pittsburgh.
okay.
So, Gettysburg is, I would call, like, my hometown, investigative spot, but I live in the coal region, so we have tons
Oh,
of
yeah. You sh
locations. Like,
you must,
we
yeah.
yeah, and especially, like, within our mines. I live not too far from Centralia.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a 15-minute drive. So, like, it just intrigues me, like, of all of these places that have been out there that people didn't realize the things that
Mhm.
were going on. Like, the thing that breaks my heart most is living in PA is Penhurst.
Right.
And I like, how do you handle, like, I don't know how you are. I know how I know from my experience. Do you get that empathic connection
I
to a
do.
location, and
I
how
do.
best do you handle that? Because I know for me, when I go into some of these locations, I'm experiencing how they lived and how they suffered, and how, like, at the case of West Virginia Penitentiary, I felt Red and how he died.
Okay.
And it was the most horrific thing. And that's something, me as an investigator, even with my levers of protection, I haven't been able to stop that feeling. And, is it because I don't want to? Because I feel like my job is to tell the story. So I was always interested in seeing how other, mediums and psychics handle that.
The way that I handle it is that I don't try to stop myself from feeling it. I just don't hold
Okay.
on to it.
Right, okay.
I
Yep.
let it go. I let it move through. I feel it. I say what they want me to say. I share the message, and then I just let it go, because it's not mine to carry. It's
Right.
like when you do readings for people. Do you remember all the readings you do?
Actually, no, I don't. Like, most of the
I
time I
don't
do a
either.
reading most of the time I do a reading, and then it's gone when the
It's
next
gone.
client comes in, because I
Yeah,
do a lot of metaphysical events where I do readings.
me
So, yeah,
too.
and I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, just let
It's
it go
not
through,
yours to
because
hold on to.
right,
You're just sharing a message.
I have been on my hands and knees crying, because of the experiences and the things I have felt.
Right.
And, and I'm always looking for ways, and I never thought, just let it go through, just experience
Just
it and let it go.
let it move through. Yeah.
Me, no, I just get hysterical. I mean, I was in a room, up in upstate New York in Palmyra,
Mhm.
with an old fashioned, like, Civil War era abortion kit.
Ooh,
And I literally was on the floor grasping my abdomen, screaming and crying in pain. And
right.
I had no idea why until the people that had the house explained, "Oh, we just got this."
Oh boy.
And
Yeah.
and I was just like, "Oh my goodness." And so,
Yeah.
like, I never thought, just let it, because most of the time I get a big stop sign.
Right.
When I'm not supposed to go in a place, when I'm not supposed to go near a room, this stop sign comes up, and I
Yeah.
don't I listen to that. But most of the time, that doesn't happen with these things. And so I'm
Right.
always interested to seeing how other people, and I think it's beneficial for other psychic investigators, because I think they're the forgotten, if you want to say, in the field, because so many people are relying on science nowadays, they're forgetting, the most, people that are most at risk on their teams.
Well, and it's not only that. I believe that psychics on a team are important because they give
Hmm.
context to the information that the technology gets. We give context to that.
Exactly. We
And
we reinforce.
yeah, exactly. The other thing is, like with talismans, I don't want to put my faith of protection in something that could disappear. So that's why my guides have my back. I have my trailer hitch on. And by the way, if you're going to set up something like that, this is, for whoever wants this information, use a trigger word. Like if I walk into a situation I'm uncomfortable, I think the word trailer hitch. Boom, it's there. The reason that I can use that is because it's not part of my everyday language.
Now that makes sense to me
Yeah.
because there are a couple of things that people have noticed about me. And so that makes me like think, because I never use the word bippity.
Okay.
But yet when I'm investigating and I get really nervous, like bippity comes out, or I do
Okay.
this. I do this constantly.
Okay.
And someone had once told me it was like I was tuning in a radio.
Hmm.
And so that makes sense. Like maybe that is my word, that when I'm experiencing this, it's putting up a level of protection that I didn't even realize I was doing.
Right. Right. Because
Because I
I,
do use
yeah,
that.
I drive a Hyundai Elantra. I'm towing absolutely nothing. I do not have a tow hitch, right? So that's why trailer hitch works for me,
Yeah. And I can picture that
because
big ball.
yeah,
When you say trailer hitch, I picture that big ball and,
big
of
chrome ball
metal.
around
Yeah.
me.
That,
And
because I remember doing my hair in them. Yeah, I grew up in the middle of
mhm,
nowhere where everybody had a truck with a hitch. And
right,
so,
me
I
too.
think about it, I'm looking and
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, I used to do my hair in them when, I was younger. So
right.
that
Because they're reflective and they're hard, and that's the whole point. It can't get through.
and that
I can still
fascinates me
s I
because
can still see out. I
right,
can still experience what I need to experience, but if something tries to jump me, it bounces right off my trailer hitch.
that is
You
utterly
know?
amazing. I am gonna, if you don't mind, share that with some
Oh,
of my
feel free.
investigators, like, because
It's
it's the whole
published in my
aspect.
book, so I own the
Which
rights
book
to
is it?
that. Intuitive You,
Okay,
personal
Intuitive
psychic and
You,
personal
okay.
development. Yeah, it's
Yeah, because I
published in that
actually
book.
was looking and, that I'm always looking for books to recommend to people, and, it's one that, that I don't think enough people trust their intuition.
Agreed.
And can you, like, briefly, because I mean, I understand, but for people that may be watching that don't understand what intuition is and how to recognize it, can you just, like, give, like, a broad little
Oh, yeah,
thing so they can understand what we're talking about when we talk about intuition?
right. Intuition is when you know something, you don't know how you know it. That can be like a gut feeling.
Mhm.
That can be the hairs on your neck standing up. That can be goosebumps. That can be any indication that there is something that you can't see. The thing is that though that I'm visual, like
Mhm.
my whole group is planning on going to Gettysburg. I'm not going because
Why?
I will see the battles taking place.
Oh, okay, I have,
I'm very
but
visual. I
yeah,
can't I don't I could. I choose not to because I don't want to experience that trauma.
and that's the whole city.
Yeah.
No matter where you go, like, for me, I always tell people, Gettysburg is my Disney World,
Mhm.
because most people wanna go to Disney World, I wanna go to Gettysburg all the time. If
I
someone
know a
says, "Do you
lot of
wanna"
people who do, but
Yeah, and
I'm not
Antedium, which
drawn.
isn't too
Yeah.
far. And I think I'm a history buff. And I
Okay.
think Gettysburg is one of those places for not only the paranormal, but the history, because
Right.
you can go right from Gettysburg right down the road to Antietam, which is another battlefield.
Mhm.
And, you know, I'm thankful that the I've never sat and actually watched battle.
Mhm.
I don't know, it's because of my protection. I mean, I have seen soldiers in the peach orchard, like, down on the ground. My
Right.
son has witnessed soldiers walking between Devil's Den and Little Round Top. So, but I can understand that when you say that you don't wanna, I mean, I can't imagine. I did see somebody that was overtaken by an entity on the battlefield because they touched the
Mhm.
water in the Bloody Creek. So I can
Right.
understand as a psychic where that could be
Right.
disenchanting. So, yeah, but
Right. If I'm going to expose myself to something that's potentially going to traumatize me, I'm not going to do it for my own entertainment
Yeah.
purposes. I'm
Oh,
going to
yeah, and
do
I
it
can
because I'm
understand
helping
that.
somebody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I still, I lost loved ones on 9/11, and I
Yeah.
still have not gone back to that location. I mean, I grew up in Hell's Kitchen, New York.
Okay.
So, I still have not gone back to a part of the city that was such a big part of my life.
Right.
I can't do it yet. I was in Johnstown, where the other plane had crashed here in PA.
Mhm.
Um, and I had a horrendous experience there, and it even made me more not want to, because it
Right.
wasn't even so much the experience of being there and around the death. It was the experience of the people that were there and
Right.
not understanding how solemn, and that caused
Right.
anger within me because
Right.
I feel these locations we should be honoring.
Right.
It's not a place to, hee haw and laugh and giggle, and these are solemn locations, and that's how
Right.
I try to go into my investigations. But in Gettysburg, you can't get away from it. You're
Right.
in town, you're at battlefield. You're on the battlefield, you're no, that battlefield was the entire, town and all the surroundings. So I totally, and I give you
Yeah.
credit because I'm the type of person that can't say no.
Ah.
If my friends are going somewhere and I get like, "Oh, I don't like to do prisons," but they're like, "Oh, I've been to West Virginia State Penitentiary 4 times." Why? Because I can't say no. Because they're like,
I
"We're
can
going."
say no. I've learned that
Yeah,
word.
and they're like, "Do you wanna go to West Virginia Penn?" "Yeah, sure, let's go." When we were in North Carolina, they were all like, "Let's go to an old plantation."
Mhm.
Okay, and then we ended up where the slave quarters were, and I was just like, "No, forget no, I shouldn't have come." But, yeah, so I give you credit for knowing.
I struggle with all of that. I've only been in Mississippi one time, and that's because I was running out of gas on my way to Florida. So I needed to stop and get gas, and, I stopped in Tupelo, Mississippi, and I was drawn to, like, go around it was 2 experiences. 1, I went into the gas station because my card wasn't working at the pump.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so I went in, and there was one gentleman who was working there, and I heard somebody kind of make like, clear their throat sound,
Mhm.
and I turned around, and there was another gentleman sitting, like, at the back of the store at a booth, okay? And I just kinda acknowledged him
Right.
and paid for my gas, and the gentleman who gave me my change back, the clerk, said, "Who were you talking to?" And I'm like, "The gentleman sitting back there," and he looked around me, he goes, "I don't see anyone back there."
Oh, wow.
Right? So and it was an older black gentleman, but he made eye contact with me like he knew me, right?
Wow.
I got my gas, I left, and instead of getting right back on the interstate, I was drawn to drive through a neighborhood, which was a very nice neighborhood, but I could see people hanging
Ugh.
from the trees. And one of those people that I saw was a boy probably 8 years old, maybe 10, and I recognized that boy as me in a past life.
Oh, wow.
And so I know I've got goosebumps again talking about it, but that's why I mean, it's like I see things so visually that they actually look like you do to me.
Oh, yeah.
So
I get that.
clearly,
I get
so
that.
clearly.
Yep, I
And
totally
yeah,
understand that.
so I have never had a draw back to Mississippi for any reason, you know?
Yeah,
Uh,
I would say, like, and there are certain locations,
mhm,
that I feel that way about too. Like, I was at the Bel Air house in Maryland once,
okay.
and I don't know what it was about that location, but I spent the whole time we were there sick. If I
Mm,
was in that house. And I would literally feel sick. So it's not a place that I would want to go back to. But yeah, I think
right.
if someone asked me to, I would probably be like, "Oh, sure, let's go."
Sure, why not?
Why not? It's only my psyche, and So
Yeah,
I mean, I guess the big takeaway I'm getting is, like, as psychics and mediums, when we experience these things, we have to learn where our points of breaking are.
right, right,
And
and honor that,
yeah,
and honor that in other people.
Yeah,
Because, I might go into a location with a few other psychics and it's not bothering me, but maybe one of them can't handle the location for however they are experiencing it. I honor that. Let me help you first. If do you
right,
need to leave? I can leave. I'm good with that. It doesn't matter if I drove 8 hours to get here. I don't care. I need to take care of the people who are there first,
right.
you know, whether that's me or someone else.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it's really about just respect, isn't it?
Amen. This is a word that I've been seeing a lot lately. Um,
Mhm,
Everybody talks about para unity.
mhm.
And but do we really practice it? And do we really have, because I see it like where other, everybody thinks that they're in this big competition. There's enough hauntings out there. There is enough investigation that can be going on
Oh
that we
my
could
gosh,
all be going to a different location every day, and I still don't think
and
we've
never run out.
investigated them out.
Right.
And
Yeah,
everybody's going to get different evidence. I mean, I've
right,
gotten evidence that other people haven't got at certain locations. I've also debunked evidence in other
right.
locations. And I know people get angry about that, but wouldn't you rather the truth be out there about your location than be sharing stories that people can easily debunk?
Rule number 1, debunk yourself first.
Exactly, because you don't
Because
want, you don't
right,
want someone coming in.
and
Um,
doing it for you.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
like that's my thing.
Mhm.
I am a big believer, but I'm also one of the biggest skeptics you'll meet
Me
because
too.
that's how I was taught.
Mhm.
Disprove everything before you try to prove the paranormal. It's
Right,
how I was taught.
right.
So I will, and I'm sure you do that. And I've seen other investigators like yeah, we're psychics. We believe in this realm beyond ours. We believe in this other side of the veil. We believe in these other dimensions. However, we want to make sure that it's nothing going on the physical before.
Well, and the thing is, I think if you're really psychic, it's not a matter of believing. You already
Right.
know. It's not a matter of believing.
Mhm.
I believe in the paranormal as much as I believe in my water bottle. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? Because it's just as real to me. And I just don't understand, like, oh, well, I don't believe it, so it's not real. That doesn't even make sense.
Right.
You
It's
can believe
just like
whatever you want to believe, but that doesn't make it less real for other people.
exactly because there
You
are,
know?
people, when we get on the concept of spiritual background,
Mhm.
people believe in different things, but my theory is it's all coming from the same place.
It is.
It's
It
just
is.
people call it different things.
Right.
And, and that's what caused me to get involved with the interfaith community because I think we're all right and that we all need to work together.
I agree. I agree with you. The other thing is that not everything that we see is a ghost. Not
Right.
everything that scares us is a demon, you
Right.
know? Maybe we're just looking into a parallel universe and those people are as alive and well as we are, and they're experiencing us the same way we're experiencing them. We don't
Mhm.
know that for sure.
Yeah, and that's interesting because that's a conversation that I have, with my daughter all the time. She'll
Mhm,
be like, "Well, there is a world out there where when I had, meningitis when I was 15, I ceased to exist." And she
mhm.
said, "But I like it on in this world a lot better." And I had never heard that before.
Yeah,
And, that really led me to do research into these multiverses. Like my son calls it like, he's a Marvel fanatic. So he always says the multiverse of madness,
right.
and,
Well, and
and
it is.
and these alternative timelines, where my other
Mhm.
child is, a DC fan and she calls it something different.
Right,
But, I do believe in these alternative timelines and how often do these timelines cross with ours?
right. I think that there's just so much that we don't know
Hmm.
that to rule out something because our physical eyes haven't seen it is pretty ignorant stance to take.
Amen. I
You
say that
know?
all the time, especially like working with people in the cryptid community.
Mhm.
There is so much of this planet that we have yet to explore. How can we say these things do not exist?
Exactly.
Like
And
we haven't
having an
even touched
opinion, is like I am strongly connected to Bigfoot. I have a Bigfoot protector, spirit protector.
it. Mhm.
Um, I've always been strongly connected to Bigfoot. In the last well, since last May, it's become a lot stronger where I've actually started channeling. the Bigfoot community,
Wow.
trans-channeling, and for me, it's not a matter of do they exist or, other people have different experiences with it. For me, I've always felt very comfortable and very protected by that community.
Mhm.
Other people are like, "Oh, they threw rocks at us," and no, it's because you're invading their territory. Leave them the hell alone,
Right.
first of all. But second of all, if they are reacting to you in a way that's angry, what did you do to provoke it?
Right.
Just like any other
Just like,
entity that would
yep,
come.
anything out there, if you
Yeah.
do something that is going to upset it, it is going to, and that's why I always tell people,
Mhm.
treat these things like you wanna be treated. So,
Yeah.
now
Treat them like you want your kids to be treated.
yep, exactly. Yeah,
That's
well,
because a lot of I have also run into the bravado of, "Well, I don't care how they treat me."
yeah,
Well, how would you care if they treated your daughter that way?
yep, or your
The way that
son
you're
or your
treating them, or your
grandchild,
son, or your
exactly,
grandchild.
and that is a
Exactly.
good way to look at it because, yeah,
Mhm.
there's a lot of times where you could treat me however you want, but you mess with my kid and there's gonna
We
be
got a
hell.
problem. Yeah.
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 Well, I'm getting close to closing out. Is there any little
Alright.
bit of last minute information you wanna get out there to our listeners and followers?
Just really pay attention to how you feel, and it doesn't matter if you're a psychic, if you're only in there to set up the tech, if you're the person in the, what do they call the wherever you're sitting and monitoring everything, and I know
Mhm.
there's words for that. It doesn't matter, pay attention to how you feel, because if you start feeling like your emotions are changing and they're changing quick and you're getting angry with your team members and they haven't done anything, you should probably talk to whatever psychic is on that team if you have one, and if not, you better find one quick.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and guys, this is Kristina Bloom. She has some books on Amazon, Intuitive Use, Psychic and Personal Development, and Wisdom for the Age of Ascension. And all of the links for all of her items will be in our product description. So please, please go and check her out. I really enjoyed having you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I very
And
much enjoyed being here, and I
yeah,
also have 3 YouTube shows, so
yep. And I will have them all
yeah,
linked in the description. I have them all here in front of me. I know one is ParaMystic Christina.
mhm,
And you have a few other pet podcasts which I'm actually really interested in checking out, your ROAD Paranormal.
yep.
So
Yeah, I do
I'm
that with my buddy Rez.
yeah, so
Yeah,
but yep, and I'll be right back.
awesome, thank you.
From our friends at Got Knockers, Strange Knocks Magazine. Strange Knocks Magazine is your ultimate companion for exploring the enigmatic corners of our world. Delve into the shadows with us as we uncover the mysteries surrounding cryptids like Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and examine Moss Healing Collective in Milton, Pennsylvania, your one-stop shop for crystals, candles, herbs, books, divination tools, self-care, and healing. Amos offers a multitude of classes for your metaphysical and witchy needs. Check them out on Broadway Street in Milton, Pennsylvania. Amos Healing Collective. Look for more information in the description.